Hello everybody, today we are going to discuss On the Face of It by Susan Hill. And here the theme of this story is outward appearance doesn't matter. And the other thing is perspective is important. So we have two characters in this story. One is Mr. Lamb who is Lamb actually. He has a broken leg, a tin leg. And the other character is Derry. His actual name is Derek, but he doesn't like that. Derry is a negative boy, that is negative-minded boy, pessimistic, and Mr. Lamb is very optimistic. So the characters are totally opposite to each other, totally different. So, and through these characters, the writer has tried to explain us these things that whatever your outward appearance is, it doesn't signify if inwardly you are very good and optimistic. You can overcome any problem, you can come out of any problem, you can challenge anything and then be successful. So that is what he is trying to say. And for that, your perspective should also be always good. You must have a positive approach towards life. And if you have that approach, you can sail through any difficult situation, any difficult circumstances. So these are the things that he is trying to convey through this story. And the scene is Mr. Lamb's garden. So what happens is that this boy, Derry, one day by chance enters Mr. Lamb's garden. Now, he thought that there was nobody. And that's how he entered. Otherwise, he wouldn't have entered. Now, when he entered, he heard a sound. Mind the apples. He was shocked because he thought it was empty. He said, who? What? Who is there? Suddenly, there was a response. Mind the apples. Crab apples. They are. That means wild one, big one. And wind falls in the long grass. They got down because of the wind, and you could trip, so you could also fall down. He said, I thought it was empty, an empty garden. He said, so it is. Yes. What are you afraid of, boy? It is. I thought it's empty. So it is. I am out here in the garden. So the house is empty, and until I go back, and moreover, it's a good day, not a day to be indoors. So until I am here, the house is empty. Now he grew panicky, got afraid. He said, I've got to go. He said, not on my account. He said, I've not come to steal the apples. Actually, he had thought that nobody is there. And so when he saw Mr. Lamb there, he got at once afraid. And that's why he wants to go. He said, you don't have to be afraid. See, the gates open. The gates always open. Only you climbed the garden wall. He said, you were watching me. He said, I just saw you. Actually, Derry thought Mr. Lamb is thinking he had come to steal something. And so he just gave justification that I have not come to steal here. He said, no, young lads do that, scrump the apples. Scrump means steal. You are not that young. And so this way they talk, and Derry says, you don't know me, who I am. He said, you're a boy, 13 or so. He said, not 13, 14. Okay, fine. I've got to go. Again and again he is repeating, I've got to go. He wants to go. He's afraid. Mr. Lamb said, what are you afraid of? He said, I'm not afraid of anybody. People are afraid of me. Now, why should that be? He said, it doesn't matter who they are or what they are. And signify it is, what they when they look at me, they are afraid. So he said, and I know I can see. He said, see what do they think? Okay, what do they think? Then tell me. You think, you look at me and you think that here's a boy, and then you look at my face, that burnt face, and oh, that's bad. That's terrible. That's the ugliest thing I ever saw in my life. So that's what people think when they look at my face. And poor boy. But I am not poor. People think like this, but I am not poor. And underneath, what? In the heart of hearts, they are afraid. And anybody would be, even I am. When I look into mirror, my face, I'm afraid. No, not the whole of you, not. So what he was trying to say that only one side of, actually what one side of his face was burnt. So that's why he was saying so. So no, not the whole of you. Said yes. Now Mr. Lamb did a thing. What? He changed the topic. He said, when it's a bit cooler, I'll take the ladder and the stick and pull those crab apples down. They are ripe for it. And I make jelly with them. Look at them. It's a good month of the year, September. And look at them. They are orange and red. So I do that. And you could help me if you. So Derry got angry. Why? Because Mr. Lamb changed the topic. So he got angry at that. He said, what have you changed the subject for? Why do you do what they all do and pretend as if it isn't there, it isn't true? So why do you do like all the others? As people, they pretend, they pretend as if there is nothing. It's not true, there is nothing. They pretend like that. So you are like the others, you are doing that. Why don't you ask? I know. What do you ask? You think I'll see you looking at me and stare and get upset? I can tell you, I'll tell you why. Why don't you ask me? Because you are afraid too. He said, okay, you want me to ask? Say so then. He said, I don't like being near people. Actually, what? Derry didn't like changing the topic by Mr. Lamb, and that's why he's saying so, that you are afraid, that's why you are not asking or indulging in those talks. So Mr. Lamb said, okay, if you want me to ask that, I think I should say to look at it, your face got burnt in fire. No, not fire, acid. Acid got that side of my face, and it ate it up, it burnt it up, and now it will never be different. Okay, it will never be different. Now, aren't you interested? Said, interest? You are a boy who came into my garden. Plenty do. That is sufficient for me to have interest. That you came into my garden. And I am interested in everything, everybody that God has made. So, yes. So, your face or anything, that doesn't matter for me. Why should it signify or matter for me to take any interest? It's okay that you are a boy who came into my garden. That's sufficient, plenty for me to take interest. He said, look boy, look over beside the far wall. What do you see? There he said, rubbish. Said, rubbish? Look boy, look over beside the far wall. Said, there's grass and stuff, weeds. Said, weeds? Some call them weeds. Then it's a weed garden. But see, I grow, there's everything. I grow flowers and fruits. There are trees and herbs. I grow everything. But over there, yes, I grow weeds. But why is it so? Like, why is one green plant is called a flower and the other a weed? It's all life, green and growing. Both are growing, both are green, both have life. Then why is it so that one you call a weed and the other a flower? Where's the difference? See, just like you, it's like you and me. So actually, what he wants him to tell that outward appearance doesn't matter. That's what he's trying to explain. So when he said, like you and me, then he said, you and me, we are not the same. He said, I am old, you are young. I've got a tin leg, you've got a burnt face. I'm sitting here, You're standing there. Where's the difference? Now see, he is stating all the differences and he is asking, where is the difference? So that I explained that through this, what he is trying to say, that outward appearances, they don't matter, that whether there are total differences, that he was old, there he was young, he had got a thin leg, there he had a burnt face, all that, still there was some underlying similarity. And so, just on the basis of outward appearance, you cannot say that you are altogether different and there is no similarity. That's what he is trying to explain here. Now he said, why I got a thin leg? He said, the real one got blown off in the war. And the kids, lammy lamb, some kids say, because as he had a thin leg, so children actually, they taunted and teased him. So you might have heard, oh, they tease like that. But okay, it suits me, doesn't trouble me. He was not bothered at all. He was lamb and his name was lamb. So he was not at all bothered by that. He said, but you can put on trousers and then nobody would see and nobody would stare. That some do, some don't. After all, they get, and how long actually they could. After all, they get tired of it. How long would they keep staring like that? Finally, they get tired of it. So, he said, there are other things to look at. Why should they look at my leg always? There are other beautiful things to be looked at. He said, yes, like my face. Now, see, he was that negative. He was that negative that always he would talk negativity and negative talks would come out of him. Then why should that be? There are so many beautiful things, like the spider climbing up a silken ladder, like my crab apples, like my tall sunflowers. So there are so many beautiful things. So why should people look at only the ugly things? Or so he said, yes, things. It's all relative, beauty and the beast. Now, this is quite important and we must know this, that what does this mean? That's what we have to talk of. See this, that this is what he is talking about, beauty and the beast. And so the question here is, it's all relative. Beauty and the beast. Explain. So how do you explain this? And before explaining, we have some part of it remaining. We'll complete that and then we'll come to this question. So he said, what's that supposed to mean? He said, you tell me. So Derry said, don't think that they haven't told me that fairy story before. So what he was trying to say, just as this is the common tendency in the public, in the society, that whenever something bad happens to you, people at once come and they sympathize and they give you lots of advice for free. Because yes, that's the social norm, that you get free advice always, everywhere, from everybody. So he said, don't think that they haven't told me that fairy story before. I know all that I have been told. That it isn't what you look like, it is what you are inside. So, your appearance don't matter. What matters is what you are within. That is more important. Handsome is that handsome does. Means handsomeness is not about your beauty, your beautiful looks, your outward appearance, your outward personality. Handsomeness is all about your deeds. So, I know all that. People have told me about all that. And the beauty loved the monstrous beast. for himself. And when she kissed the beast, he turned into a handsome prince. And he won't. He won't. And I will never change. So what does this mean actually, that beauty loved the monstrous beast for himself? You might have heard this story, and you might have seen this movie as well, because there had been a movie, and the story is a very old story. So actually that the beast was an accursed prince. He was cursed by somebody, and that's why he got turned into a beast. And that girl, she was a very kind-hearted girl, a compassionate one, a good-natured one. And she could have escaped, and she got a chance to escape. She could, if she liked, if she wished, she would never return. But as she was a good girl, she was a positive-minded and good-hearted girl, she returned. And what happened later? That she had a very good life with that prince. So, what does this story tell us? That if you have a positive approach towards life, even the bad things turn out to be positive, as happened in the case of that girl. That beast turned out to be a handsome prince, and she led a beautiful life. But if you have a negative approach towards life, then what? Even the positive things, good things, turn out to be negative. So, this is what we see in this world. And I'll tell you a story for this, that in Mahabharata, what happened, once Guru Dronacharya called his disciples, one from Pandava and one from Kaurava. So in Pandava, he called Yudhishthir, the eldest one, and he said, Yudhishthir, you go and wander about in Hastinapur and just bring one bad person to me. So, of course, it was the order of his teacher, and so he went out and he wandered about there and then returned. Similarly, he asked Kaurava to wander and go about in the whole of Hastinapur and bring him one good person. So, both were obedient disciples and pupils, and they just went about in search of as the Guru had told them. And finally, when they returned in the evening, they were both of them were empty-handed. The Guru asked, what? I told you something and you are empty-handed. Where are those people? So, Yudhishthir said that, Guru, I couldn't find any bad person in the whole of Hastinapur. Now that was surprising. Now, for Duryodhan, because Duryodhan said, I couldn't find any good person in the whole of Hastinapur. So what does this story suggest? As mind, so is the vision. Whatever you, I should say that whatever your mind is, or the way you think, the world becomes like that for you. For Yudhishthir, he was a good-minded person, and so the world was all good for him, and he couldn't find even a single person with bad qualities. To him, everyone had some good qualities. And similarly for Duryodhan, everyone had some bad qualities. He couldn't find a good person. So, as is the mind, so is the vision. That's what it tells us, and that's what this story is trying to tell us. That we were discussing, that the boy, Derry, was that negative, and Mr. Lamb was all positive. So he was telling him that I won't change. Mr. Lamb said, in that way, of course not. Because in that way it's not possible. There was a beautiful girl who kissed him. And in his case, who would? There's no such. He said, and no one would ever kiss me. Only my mother does. And that too on the other side. She does because she has to. But I don't like it. I don't want her to kiss me, and I don't care if nobody ever kisses me. He didn't like that at all, actually. He said, but do you care if you never kissed them? Now that was shocking and surprising for Derry when Mr. Lamb said so. That beautiful girls, pretty girls, large eyes, long hair. Won't you like to? He said, who would let me? Who would allow me to kiss them? Who? Not a single one. He said, who can tell? Who can tell? He said, I won't ever be different even I'm as old as when I'm as old as you are. I won't ever be different. I'll still be the same with this burnt face, this ugly face. He said, you won't, but the world will. Mr. Lamb said, you may not change, but see, the world will change. The world's got a whole face, and the world's there to be looked at. So what he is trying to explain, this is quite important for us, and we must understand this. Here is the thing that the world's got a whole face and the world's there to be looked at. What does this mean? Mr. Lamb was trying to explain that, see, time is the only permanent thing in this world, in this universe, and it goes on changing. So everything undergoes a change, and so do the views and opinions of people. So over time, what the people's outlook towards him would change, and they won't mind his face. They won't look at him and get upset, and they would accept him. They would accept him as he is. And they would like to enjoy the beautiful aspects of nature. So that's what he was trying to explain, that it's not that he is the only one that the people would always look at and be upset. No, they would definitely like to look at the other side of the world, that is the beautiful aspects, and they would enjoy that. So that's why the world's got a whole face and the world's there to be looked at. So Derry was surprised at that. So do you think that this is the world? He asked him, do you think that this is the world, this garden? He said, yes, as much as anywhere. When I am here, this is my garden. This is my world, as much as anywhere else. Means when I am here, this becomes my world. When I am somewhere else, that becomes my world. So he said, does your leg hurt you? So tin doesn't hurt, boy. How can tin hurt? I mean, when it came off, he said, yes, certainly. I mean, at the top where the tin stops, he said, yes, now and then, in wet weather, doesn't signify. No, he said, but that's something else they all tell me. And it's not like what he is trying to say in wet weather. Why he said so? Because this happens with the people if with some old injuries. So in wet weather, when it's all cloudy and rainy, so what happens, that old pain comes back. So that's what he is trying to say. So Derry said, but people say something else. What they say? Look at those who are in pain and who are suffering and who never cry, never complain, who brave their situations, who never feel sorry. Look at those. Said, I never said that. I haven't said that. And they also say, what? Look at those worse off than you. People say this. Look at those who are worse off, whose conditions are very poor, worse off than you. Look at those. And think, you might have been blinded. You might have been born deaf. You might be in wheelchair. Think that you might be daft and dribble in your chair. So think and thank God that you are not like that. You didn't get any such thing. So Mr. Lamb said, so it's all true and you know that. He said, it won't make my face change. Knowing this won't make my face change. So Derry wanted to say that knowing everything doesn't mean or doesn't guarantee that his face would change. And he explained that thing. He said one day he was standing at a bus stop and a woman passed him by, went by him. One more woman was there with him, another was there, and they just looked at his face and they talked. So the woman said to the other, "Look at that face, how terrible that is. It's a face only a mother could love." So, so you believe everything you hear then? Mr. Lamb just asked him. You believe everything you hear then? He said, no, that was cruel. No, maybe not meant as such. It might be just okay, they were passing, they just glanced at your face and then they talked about that and just went away. That's it. Nothing serious or nothing special about that. So he said, only I heard it. So is that the only thing you have ever heard anybody say in your life? He said, no, I have heard a lot more things, lot other things. So now you keep your ears shut. Now, hearing all such logics from Mr. Lamb, he said, you talk, you say peculiar things, strange things. You ask questions that I don't know, I can't answer. He said, you don't have to answer. The gate's open. You can. So, yes, but Mr. Lamb said, see, I have my bees behind those trees. So, means he wanted to go and see those bees. And he said, bees buzz. Bees buzz. And, buzzing is actually irritable. That's why he's mentioning so. So, bees buzz. But when you listen to them for a long while, they hum. And hum means sing. Now, what exactly Mr. Lamb is trying to say through bees? So here, of course, we must ask this. What does Mr. Lamb try to convey through bees? So what does it try to convey through bees? And here it is very simple. He is trying to tell us about the perspective, that how the perspective changes. When you listen to bees, the sound of bees is irritable. But when you listen to them for a long while, the same buzzing, the same irritation that turns into something pleasant, like humming, singing. So similarly, when you know a person closely, when you spend some time with a person, when you know about the person's real nature, real character, you get to like it. So that negativity is all gone and you get to know the person more clearly and more closely and you start liking that person. So it means what? With the passage of time, when you spend some time with that person or thing, your outlook, your attitude towards that person change. So he said that Derry is answering what? Yes, but I like it here. I came here because I liked it. He said, you won't come in if you had seen me. He said, yes, no. That would be trespassing. If I entered without that, trespassing means actually without permission, without seeking any permission. So if I had come here, then that would be trespassing. So he said, but that's not why, means that's not the reason. Reason is something else. So now he's telling him that, see, I don't like being near people. Any people. When people look at my face, they stare and they get afraid of it. So no, I don't like it. He said, you can do one thing, what? You can lock yourself up in a room. There was a person who did it. So you can do something like that. And then Mr. Lamb told him that story. that there was a man and he was afraid of everything. No, everything in this world, like what? That a bus might run him over, that a man might throw deadly germs onto him, that when coughing or sneezing might throw deadly germs onto him, that lightning might strike him down, that a donkey might kick him, and he might love a girl and the girl would deceive him, and he might slip on a banana skin and people who would saw him would laugh their heads. So means everything. He was afraid of every such thing, that all such mishaps would happen to him or would fall on him. He was afraid of in that way. And so what? He just went into a room and locked him up there. Is it forever? No, for a while, because it didn't require that much. What happened actually, he got into the room, there was a picture that fell down and he went up. Means that he left the world, he died. So Derry felt very happy at this, he liked the story, that interesting. So he said, you still say peculiar things, strange things. And we have a question on this, that why did Mr. Lamb narrate the story of the man? Why did Mr. Lamb narrate the story of the man who locked himself up in a room? So why? What is the reason? And the answer is very much clear, that according to Mr. Lamb, avoiding a problem, what he wanted to tell him or teach him, that avoiding a problem is never the solution of a problem. So we need to do what? We need to take the bull by the horns. That means you face the problem head on, and that is the only way to move ahead. You cannot move ahead by eschewing or avoiding a problem. You need to face the problem and then overcome it, and that is the way of moving ahead. That's what he was trying to tell him, that if you want to move ahead, you will have to face it, because if you try to avoid, it will come to you in some other way, at some other place. So then you can never escape from the problems. Life means what? Problems and challenges, and we need to learn to face and overcome them. That's what he was trying to say. So Derry laughed at that and he said, you still say strange things, peculiar things, and what do you do all day? Lamb said, sit in the sun, read books. Inside it is full. You might have thought it's empty. No, there are books and other things. It's full. He said, but there are no curtains. He said, curtains? I don't like curtains. I don't like shutting things in and shutting things out. I like the light and the darkness. I like the window open and the wind coming in, wind blowing. I like all that. So that's what he explained to him. But apart from these things, there is something else to be explained here. And for that, we'll definitely ask this question, that why did Mr. Lamb have no curtains at the windows? Why did Mr. Lamb have no curtains at the windows? So what was the reason behind that? So one, I just explained that he liked the light and darkness, all those things. But apart from these, we must say that Mr. Lamb accepted life as it is, the way it came to him. It means he had no prejudices against anything. It wasn't like that I don't like this, so I won't have this, and I like this, so I'll keep this only, not the other things. No, he accepted everything that life put before him, that life offered him, and he liked all that. So that was his approach towards life. And listening to this, Derry said, I like it when it rains on the roof. I like that sound. Muslim said, then it means you are not lost altogether. Not altogether. You listen things, you hear. So he said, no, they talk about me. Who is talking of his family members? They talk about me when I'm not there, downstairs. That what will he do when we are gone? Yes, when the other members of the family die, what will he do? How will he get on in this world? What he will do with that on his face? So this is the concern of his family members. They are worried that how will he get on in his life with that on his face. Now, at this, Mr. Lamb said, Lord, boy, you got everything. What he's trying to say, boy, you got 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, you got a tongue and a brain. You got everything. And you can get on in the world the way you want. And if you choose and set your mind to it, then you can get on better than the rest. So you might have heard the name of Stephen Hawking. At the end of his life, in those times, that phase, only the brain and 2 fingers, only that worked. And still, the world knows him. So what he was trying to tell him, see, you have got everything. What else you need? You only have to decide. You only have to be firm in your decisions. And the rest will follow. And you will be able to do better than the others. So, he said, how? Same way as I do. So, you got friends. With friends everywhere. Friends everywhere. And the gates, the gates open. People come and sit in the garden. They come and sit in front of fire in winter. Children come for apples and pears and for toffees. I make toffee with honey. So this is what he is explaining to him. And just as they come, so have you. So he said, but I am not your friend. He said, what have you done to make me think that you are not my friend? That you don't know me. You don't know me, who I am, where I come from, what my name is. So he said, why should that signify? Is it important? Is it important to know your name or your history or your past or your background to make you friend? What does that signify? Do I have to write all your particulars down on a paper and put that in a filling box before you can be my friend? Is it that important to know your background and history and everything? He said, no, I suppose not. You can tell me if you like, and no, if you don't. So then at this he told his name. He said, Derry. Only it's Derek, but I hate it because he didn't like his real name, which was Derek. He liked his nickname, that was Derry. He said, if I am your friend, you don't have to be mine. I choose that. What he was trying to say that Mr. Lamb made him his friend, but just because of that, it is not a compulsion on him to make Mr. Lamb his friend. That's what he was saying. He said, certainly. Now, he said, see, I may not come here again, we may not meet again. So then how could I be still your friend? He said, why not? He said, we meet a lot of people in the street, we may even talk to them, but it doesn't mean that they are all friends. Mr. Lamb said, doesn't mean they are all enemies. No, they are just people, nothing. How could people be nothing? How can you say so? That there are some people I hate, Mr. Lamb. Now that would do you more harm than a bottle of acid. Means if you hate people, if you have such thinking in your mind, if you have such notions, then definitely that would do you more harm. Acid, like acid only burnt your face. He said only. What else you want then? What else you want? What should have happened to me then? He said, like the bomb only blew up my leg. The worst things could happen. So how is it? We must ask here. The question is, how can hatred be more harmful than a bottle of How can hatred be more harmful than a bottle of acid? So here what we can say that acid only harms outwardly. It can distort the outward appearance of a person, the physical appearance, and that can be bore or put up with the passage of time. But hatred causes what? Hatred causes hurt inwardly. It hurts you from within. It makes a person prejudiced. And the hurt or the pain caused by hatred is more lasting than the physical pain caused by acid. So that's how hatred is more harmful than a bottle of acid. Now, he said, when I came back home from hospital after that accident or injury that he suffered. So a person came to, just as, it happens that when you are injured, when you are hurt, when you have undergone some problem, people visit you and then they sympathize with you and all that. So he said, one person came to me and she said, actually she was a lady. So she said, he would have been better off in the hospital. Now, how and why? So what she thought actually, that blind person should be with a blind person and a lamb with a lamb. So Mr. Lamb said, then what about the person with no legs altogether? He said, yes, that's all right. That's right. Now, what kind of world that would be? At least there would be nobody. There he said, at least there would be nobody to stare at. Okay, that both are blind, then what would they stare and who would they stare at? Both are lame, then okay, they are similar. So who would they stare at? So Mr. Lamb said, so you think you are like all those people with burnt faces. Everything is different, everything is same, and everything is different. Now, this is important and we must know that what he is actually trying to say here. So, I must move on to this thing. Everything is same and everything is different. So, what does this mean? So, what he is trying to say through this, that similarity and dissimilarity is the law of nature. And it is bound to be there in some form or the other. There are people in this world with similar appearance, but they may totally be different in their views and opinions. And similarly, we may have people with the same ideology and same likes and dislikes, but they may not be similar in their outward appearance. So, this is bound to be there. This similarity and dissimilarity is to be there in some form or the other. And that's how this planet is made of. So that's what he is trying to say, that okay, that they were similar in certain ways, but they were dissimilar as well in certain ways. So that's how he explained that thing. So Derry said, how do you make all this out? How do you come to know about all these things? So he said, waiting, watching, listening, just that. If you listen to the things, if you wait, if you watch everything, you can. So he said, I would also like a place like this, a house and a garden. He said, you can come here. You can come here anytime. He said, but this is not mine. See, whatever is mine is yours. So the gates open, you can come anytime, you can come here. So he said, even if you are out. He said, yes, of course. You may find other people here. So he said, oh, but that shouldn't stop you. You should mind. Why should you mind that if others are here, and why should you stop by the others? So he said, I won't mind, but they will mind. And no, they'll see my face and they'll run away. So he said, they might not, but you'll have to run the risk, and so would they. He said, risk? It would not be mine. Risk would be yours. Risk would be you may get me, or you may find me, and you may lose all your friends, because nobody would like to stay near me if they can help. So what he was trying to say, that because of my face, nobody would like to stay near me. So you may get me, but you may lose all your friends because of me. He said, see, I'm not moved. I've been standing and talking to you for this long time, but I haven't moved, or this hasn't affected me. He said, no. Mr. Lamb explained, see, when I go down the street, the children, they call me Lammy Lamb. And still they come into the garden, come into my house. And it has become a game. They are not afraid of me, because I am not afraid of them. So he said, your leg got, means you lost your leg in the war. That your leg blew off or blew away in the war. He said, yes, then how will you climb up the ladder and pick those crab apples? He said, gradually, slowly, years, I have learned these things. I take it all steadily, It has taken me years to learn all that. So he said, if you fell down, broke your neck, if you lie down there and die, then, so yes, if you were on your own, hence if you were better able, if you were not this handicap, or if you were able, then you could have managed perhaps in a better way. He said, yes. He said, I could help you if you like. But my mother, so Derry is saying, but my mother would like to know where I am. See, I am 14, still, no, she would, it's 3 miles. So people worry. After all, parents definitely, if the children are away, they haven't returned for a long time, definitely parents worry. That's what he is saying, that parents, they worry. He said, worry? People first. Worry is okay, but people first. Then okay, go and tell them. But it's 3 miles. Mr. Lamb said that, so what? It's a fine evening, you got 2 legs, you just run. And said, once I go back, they won't let me come back. So Mr. Lamb said, you yourself won't come back. Why are you blaming them? Why are you blaming them? Your family members, you yourself won't come back. So you don't know what I can. He said, how can I tell what you can do? Okay. No, if I choose, then come on, boy. I can't tell you what to choose and what to do. So they tell me. Now, he's telling about whom? His family members. He's saying, they tell me. So Mr. Lamb said, then do you have to agree? Now, here the course of talk has got a bit changed. He's saying, what? No, I want something like this. Something that nobody has or will never have. Something like this house, this garden. He said, you can find out. How? Simple. Waiting, watching, listening, all that. So he asked Mr. Lamb, Mr. Lamb, do you have those friends who come to you? Do they talk to you? Ask questions? He said, yes, some do, some don't. But I ask questions. I like to learn. He said, I don't believe in them. I don't believe that nobody ever comes here. You live there all alone, all by yourself, and nobody would know whether you are alive or dead, and nobody cares. Because actually he didn't see anybody, so how could he believe? And so he's saying that I don't believe you are lying, that you live all by yourself. So Mr. Lamb said, okay, you think what you please. Okay, if it is right, then tell me some of their names. Okay, if you have friends, tell me their names. He said, what are names? What does that signify? Tom, Dick, or Harry? What is in the names? He said, you're daft. You don't talk sense. He said, that's a good excuse. Daft means foolish, crazy. Don't talk sense. Mr. Lamb said, that's a good excuse. Excuse? For what? Excuse not to come back. And people have their excuse. What? That you got a burnt face. So just as you have excuses, people have their excuses. Now at this, he got angry. He lost his cool, and he said that you like to say things like the other people, what all the other people say, that you are frightened of me, you are afraid of me, and if you are not afraid of me, then you think that I'm ugly as devil. And saying this, he starts shouting. Mr. Lamb doesn't respond. He stays all cool, just turns back to his bees. But then soon he gets back his composure and his cool, and he says, but I like it here. I like it here. I'll come. I'm going, but I'll come back. And saying so, he just runs to his home. And Mr. Lamb says, that's you seen too. He's muttering and murmuring to himself. That's you seen too. That I'll come back. People say, but they never come back. And that's the place, and this is the point where we come to know the loneliness of Mr. Lamb, that he too felt lonely and he too craved for the company of people. So this is the only point where we come to know that like Derry, Mr. Lamb too was alone, and he craved for the company of people. So now the scene shifts to Derry's house. The whole story is in the form of a play. So scene shifts to Derry's house. He went there and he told everything to his mother, and his mother is saying, you think? I don't know. I haven't heard things. He said, you shouldn't believe all you hear. Now see how the personality has changed. Derry, who was a negative-minded boy, now has turned positive. Now that is the impact of Mr. Lamb's personality upon him. His approach has changed, and now he is repeating what Mr. Lamb said to him earlier, that you shouldn't believe whatever you hear. So mother is saying, what? It hasn't been 3 months, but I know whatever there is to know. Hence, she actually had gathered everything, all the information. So he said, what are you afraid of? He is just an old man with a tin leg, and he lives in that house, a big house too, and it has a garden. And I want to go there to listen to the bees, to look at things. So mother said, listen. Listen to what? Then bees singing, him talking. So, okay, then what he has to say to you? Is there anything that important? He said, yes. Things that matter, things that nobody else has ever said, things that I would like to think about. So mother said, for thinking you are going there, it's better that you think here. You are best off here. That no, I hate it here. So mother, I forgive you for that. It's bound to make you feel bad things. What mother is targeting is face. Mother is saying that it's all because of your face that you say such things. So I don't blame you for that. So he said, what it has got to do with my face? It has nothing to do with my face. It's all about what I want to see and what I want to hear and what I want to look at and what I want to think. That is more important. It's not my face. Now see how the perspective has changed. How the personality altogether has changed. He said, and I'm going back to help him with crab apples. Mother said, no, you won't go anywhere. He said, no, if I don't go now, I'll never go anywhere in this world. And saying so, just ran out, slamming the door. And now the scene again shifts to Mr. Lamb's garden. Mr. Lamb had put the ladder against the tree and he had climbed up and he was trying to pluck those apples. And he was trying like, oh, that's it, I got it. Oh, he was trying to pluck those apples and then there was a creak and a crash because of the wind. The branches were swaying and then there was a thump and Mr. Lamb fell down. And at that moment he entered the garden and he was saying, what? Mr. Lamb, see, I've come back, Mr. Lamb, I've come back. You said I want, they said I want, but see, I've come back. But there was no response from Mr. Lamb. And he again, it's all right, Mr. Lamb, it's all right, see, I've come back. But see, he had come back. But here Mr. Lamb went back from this world. Mr. Lamb died and there he started weeping. But see, in that brief association, Mr. Lamb completely transformed him. He was metamorphosed. He was now a different personality, from pessimistic to optimistic. So this was the impact of Mr. Lamb's brief association with Jerry. And so that's the whole story, and the 4 questions given at the back of the chapter, they are good questions and you must practice them at least once. You should read and practice all these questions. Apart from these, all the questions which I just discussed here all through the chapter, they too are very important ones and you must remember, you must practice them as well. So that's the whole story and I hope that it's now very much clear to you. Thank you.